95% of all people that choose Medicare supplemental plans today are going either with a G plan or an N plan. Now, there are some key differences between these two options, and in this video, I'm going to explain them to make sure that you choose the best one for you. Now, why do people buy Medicare supplemental plans in the first place? Well, it's because they have made the decision to stay in the original Medicare system of A and B instead of going with an Advantage plan. And so let's review real quickly how original Medicare A and B works. Of course, Medicare Part A is the inpatient side of Medicare. Medicare Part B is the outpatient side. Now, the A side of Medicare has zero premium. The B side always has a premium. Now, right now, in 2022, that is $170.10 a month. But in 2023, that number is actually going to go down a little bit. So I'm going to give you the 2023 number. Next year, the Part B premium is going to be $164.90 a month. If you're on Social Security, that comes out of your check. If not, they're going to bill you for this on a quarterly basis, or you can set up some kind of an auto pay system with Medicare. And so the point is, we have two parts of Medicare, A and B. Now, I do want to mention this just real briefly. Anyone that's high income based upon Medicare standards could pay more than the $164.90. Those additional amounts are called IRMAs. I'm just going to say this about that. If you're a single person in 2023 starting Medicare or on Medicare, if you're at $97,000 or below of modified adjusted gross income, that's $97,000 or below, then this would be your premium, $164.90. A couple, if you file a joint return, that's $194,000 or below. Each of you would pay the $164.90. If you're above that, you'll pay additional amounts called IRMAs, or those are surcharges. And again, I have videos on those that you can watch. So we have original Medicare A and B. A is pretty much everything that's going to be considered to be inpatient care. B is everything outpatient, as well as all doctor services. So that means the doctors that you go to see in their office are covered by B, but also the doctors that take care of you in the hospital. This would be the hospitalists, the ER doctors, emergency room docs, surgeons, anesthesiologists. All those doctors are paid through the B of Medicare. And so original Medicare pays decently, but it doesn't pay for anything 100% other than preventive services. So if it's in the list of Medicare preventive services, cover 100%, but other than that, you are going to have a balance of the bill. In other words, you have some financial liability, some financial participation. And so we call those gaps in your coverage. And so what we have is we have 3 gaps on the A and we have 3 gaps on the B. So our first gap on the A of Medicare, meaning we're in the hospital, we have a deductible of $1,600. And again, this is a 2023 number, $1,600. And what that means is that deductible is your financial responsibility for anything up to a 60-day stay in the hospital. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the hospital 1 day or 2 days or 10 days or 60 days. It's the same out of pocket to you. You pay the deductible, and that's all you have to pay. And Medicare is going to pay the rest. Literally, the bill could be $50,000 or $1 million. Anything between first and the 60th day will cost you $1,600 in 2023.
Hey, my name's Josh Music. My dad, Marvin Music, who's doing this video, would really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to the video. What that does is it helps YouTube know this content's valuable, this video is helpful, and it pushes out to other people who really need to see it. So go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and you can get back to watching your video.
Now, that deductible is not annual. It's actually tied to a benefit period. And so you have to remember a benefit period is this. When you're admitted to the hospital, you begin a benefit period. And in this example, it's going to cost you $1,600 out of pocket. And that benefit period, here's the way it works. It starts when you're admitted to the hospital, and let's say we're in the hospital 7 days, so we're discharged 7 days later. That benefit period from the date of discharge is still in existence for the next 60 days. So it started when I was hospitalized. I was discharged 7 days later. For the next 60 days, I'm still in my benefit period, which means if I am re-hospitalized any time during that 60-day window of being discharged and I go back to the hospital, I am still covered by that same deductible because I'm still in the same benefit period. But if I'm hospitalized, discharged 7 days later, 60 days goes by, I am not re-hospitalized during that window, and something happens after that where I have to be re-hospitalized, then I will go back to the hospital, I will start a new benefit period, therefore I will pay another $1,600 deductible. So that deductible can be paid multiple times a year. It's possible. Now, that's our first gap on original Medicare A is the deductible. The second gap is for what we call extended hospital stays. This means from day 61 to 90, and then days 91 to 150. So as you can see, that is month 3, and then month 4 and month 5. These are extended stays. They do not occur often, but when they do, here's how they're billed. So again, I'm in the hospital continuously now, and now I go into the 3rd month, and so now I'm responsible for a daily copay 2023 of $400 a day. If I'm still in the hospital month 4 and month 5, then the copay is going to double to $800 a day. So as you can see, month 4 would cost you $12,000 out of pocket. Month 4 and month 5 would cost you $24,000 each of those months. Now, again, they do not occur often, but they do happen, and this is how they're billed when that occurs. All right, now the last gap that we have in Original Medicare A is going to be for skilled nursing facility. And here's what you got to know. Skilled nursing facilities are what we consider to be inpatient rehab. This is someone that's had a stroke, maybe a hip replacement, or maybe they've had a fall, an injury, an accident, and they need some fairly intensive rehab. So they're going to a skilled nursing facility instead of going home to get that rehab. And so here's the rules. Medicare says as long as you have had a 3-day stay in the hospital or longer, 72 hours or longer, then Medicare will pay everything from days 1 to days 20. It literally doesn't cost you a penny to the skilled nursing facility. But if you're still in need of rehab after 20 days, then Medicare begins to charge daily copays. Those for 2023 are going to be $200 a day, and this would be days 21 to days 100. That's a long time in skilled nursing. They tell me right now the average is somewhere between 30 to 35 days in a skilled nursing facility. So as you can see, average person is spending anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 out of their pocket. And here's my point. Those are the gaps in Original Medicare. So we have a deductible, we have copays for extended hospital stays, and we have copays for extended skilled nursing stays. Now let's talk about the B of Medicare. Obviously, we've already discussed there's a premium for Medicare Part B. Now, when we get into your out-of-pocket expenses, we start off with a deductible. Now, again, I'm shooting this video in 2022 at the end of the year. This deductible, B deductible this year has been $233. Next year, it went down a little bit, and so our B deductible next year is going to be $226. Now, the good thing about that deductible, it's not like the A deductible. It cannot happen more than once in a year. It's an annual deductible. It's a calendar year deductible that resets every January. And all this simply means is that $226 would be out of your pocket. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like because I don't know what your first or maybe a couple claims will be. But the first couple claims up to $226 will be out of your pocket. It could be 2 doctor visits, maybe lab. It could be your first claim's an MRI. You'll pay $226 for that MRI. It could be cataract surgery. You'll pay $226 for the cataract surgery. So the point is, you pay the first $226. So that is going to be our deductible on the B of Medicare. And then after that, the small deductible is satisfied. Remember, once a year. Then Medicare is going to be an 80-20 plan. Okay. Now, that creates our second gap. Medicare, of all those B expenses, is going to pay 80% of the bill, and you're responsible for 20% of the bill. So we call that 20% coinsurance. In insurance, we have 2 basic types of payments, copays and coinsurance. Now, copay is always a flat dollar amount, $200 copay, $5 copay, $50 copay. Here we have a percentage of the bill. So Medicare is called a fee-for-service plan. That means that Medicare covers thousands of services, and every one of those has a predetermined fee that the provider is going to get. And so that provider that, takes care of you with an office visit at a primary care doctor, or they do lab work on you, or it's a surgeon. They know exactly what they're going to get. And of that predetermined fee, Medicare pays 80%, you pay 20%. So that's what we're saying is 20% coinsurance. So that's your second gap. Now, the problem with that particular gap is there's no maximum to it. In other words, they don't set a limit to it. It just keeps going and going and going and going. And the biggest problem, this is where the doctors are paid. And so if you have some kind of a serious health issue, every doctor you see, if you have a surgeon, anesthesiologist, all those docs are going to be paid out of your pocket 20%. So we have coinsurance with no max. And then that takes us to our third and final gap on Original Medicare B, and that would be what is called an excess charge. Now, let me explain what an excess charge is. This is when a doctor can still bill Medicare, still sees Medicare patients, but they're not under a contract, which is called an assignment contract. This is a doctor that looks at that fee-for-service schedule and says, I cannot take that as payment in full. They are going to add to the bill. And this is going to happen. So when doctors do this, what they do, they actually add 15% to the Medicare approved amount. And whenever they do that, you are responsible to pay for it. And again, there's no max. So every doctor you would see that adds 15%, you're responsible for that. Now, statistically right now, they tell us about 1 out of 10 doctors charges excess. So it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And most of you that are going to go on Medicare, you're going to be on Medicare for 20 to 30 years. So we have no idea what that's going to look like down the road, but we can make a decision to get that excess charge covered by insurance if we choose to. And so we have these 6 gaps. As you can see from my chart, we have 3 gaps on the A and we have 3 gaps on the B. So let's talk about, first of all, there is a plan that is called an EP plan. And I'm just telling you about this, even though this is all about G and N, because some are going to ask about EP plans. Now, the EP plan is the plan that truly covers all 6 gaps. You should never get a bill if you have an EP plan. But the issue is anyone that's born after January 1st, 1955, birthdays on, which means you started Medicare after January 1, 2020 on, you cannot get an F plan. Anyone born before 55 starting Medicare, eligible for Medicare before January 1, 2020 can still get that F plan, and they can keep that F plan their whole life, okay? And so that's the F plan. Now we're going to talk now about the G and the N plan. So we talk about a G plan. The G plan is going to cover 5 of the 6 gaps. Remember, F covered all the gaps, 6 of 6. And if you're born after January 1st, 55, this would be your most comprehensive coverage you can get. It's the G plan. Covers 5 of the 6 gaps. So what happens is, hey, if you want to learn more about Medicare, I want to invite you to join our MedicareSchool.com Facebook group. Every Monday, Central Time, 5 o'clock, we'll take a very important topic and get into the details of that. So it's something that you would enjoy doing. We hope that you'll join us. That G plan will cover your A deductible for as many times as you have it. It'll cover extended hospital copays. It'll cover extended skilled nursing copays. So on the A side of Medicare, that G plan fills in all the gaps. You'll never get a bill on that side of Medicare. Now on the B side, what will happen is that G plan will cover your full 20% coinsurance. It'll cover all excess if and when it happens. It just does not cover the B deductible. So when someone chooses a G plan, they almost have full coverage other than that B deductible, and that's just once a year that resets then every January. Whatever Medicare sets that to be, that's what you'd be out of pocket. And after that, you can put your wallet away because that G plan covers everything else. Now, when I say that, remember, these supplemental plans always follow Medicare. So if Medicare pays, the supplemental plan has to pay. Supplemental plan has no choice but to pay. Medicare pays, they pay. But if they don't pay, Medicare doesn't pay, then that G plan is not going to either, other than foreign travel emergency benefits. The G plan comes with $50,000 of a lifetime benefit for foreign travel, because remember, Medicare only covers us in the 50 U.S. states and the U.S. territories, Puerto Rico, Guam, Virgin Islands, those places. And so the G plan will give you once in a lifetime benefit, $50,000 that you can use if you ever happen to have a foreign travel emergency situation, have a claim for that. All right, so the G plan covers everything but the B deductible. Now, folks, keep this in mind. It doesn't matter who you buy that G plan from, whether it's Aetna, United Healthcare, Humana, Mutual of Omaha, Anthem, Blue Cross, on and on it goes. That's going to be the same with every carrier, meaning that the coverage is the same because Medicare standardizes all the supplemental plans. So Medicare decides what bill is going to be paid and what's not going to be paid, not the plan. The companies decide what they're going to offer you, and they set the premiums, but Medicare sets the rules for what bills will be paid and not paid. So that Medicare says to you as a consumer, if you buy a G plan, regardless of the carrier that you buy it from, the coverage will be the same. In other words, each of those companies will pay the same type of bills, same amount of bills. So there's no difference in coverage because Medicare will not allow that to happen. Now, there are differences of premiums for sure, rate stability for sure. There's lots of variables between these different insurance companies. But when it comes to the actual letter that you're purchasing, the coverage will be the same because Medicare makes it that way. Okay, so with the G plan, almost full coverage, you're responsible for the B deductible. And again, I don't know what that's going to look like. Just depends on your first claims. Could be, as I said earlier, a couple doctor visits with a lab. It could be 226 of MRI or a cataract surgery. But you're responsible for the first 226. After that, 100% coverage. Now that takes us then to the N plan. Now, the N plan, again, different letter. So we have a different Medicare supplemental option, different amount of liability and different amount of exposure. So what it's going to do, the N plan is going to cover 4 of the 6 gaps. Okay? And so what you're going to notice is just like the F, just like the G, the N is going to give you full coverage over here on the hospital side. It pays the deductible multiple times a year, extended hospital copays, extended skilled nursing copays. Now, on the B side of Medicare, just like the G plan, the N is going to make you be responsible for that B deductible. So again, the first 26 and 2023 would be out of your pocket or whatever that is set at by Medicare on an annual basis. And then that N plan will cover the full 20% whenever there's coinsurance. But here's what happens. This would be on the doctor side of Medicare. So what you're going to have with the N plan is you have the potential to up to a $20 copay whenever you see a doctor for any kind of diagnostic type service, okay? And so it covers the coinsurance, but you still are subject to up to a $20 copay. If you go to the emergency room, again, remember that's considered to be outpatient, so that's on the B side of Medicare, you would have to pay a $50 copay to the ER, okay? So to the doctors, I got a $20 copay. To the emergency room, I got a $50 copay. And then the last liability you have on the N plan would be you would be responsible now for excess. Remember, the F and the G covered excess, but on that N plan, you pay that. And so what we have here is you're responsible for the deductible on the N plan, you're responsible for excess charges if and when that occurs, and then up to a $20 copay to see a doctor, $50 to go to the emergency room. Okay, those are the differences. Now, I would tell you that there are some states, just so you know, that will not allow doctors to add excess charges. I think there's 8 of the 50 that don't allow that. And so we tell people, you may live in one of those 8 states, but you may need care sometime outside of those states. And so we really can't predict whether we're ever going to encounter excess charges or not. I can tell you that at Mayo Clinic and some of these specialty hospitals, they always add excess, and so you'd be liable for that. But that's really boils down to your comfort level, how much risk that you want to take. Okay, so when we get a plan, we're going to get with the F, the G, or the N. Now, let me just give you some numbers here real quickly so you'll kind of have a feel for the way this is going to work. Right now, and again, this is just all across the nation. We're a nationwide company. We write everywhere, okay? But right now in the F plans, they're going for about $150 to about $180 a month plus. Your G plan right now, they're ranging in the neighborhood of about $110 to maybe around $140 a month, maybe $150 for the G. And your N plans right now are going to be somewhere between about $90 to about $120. And again, this depends on carrier. It depends on your age. It depends upon where you live. All those factors are going to go into these premiums. But I just want to give you a feel for this because what's happening? Well, some of you can't even get the F anyway, so that's going to be out if you're born after January 1st, 1955. So it boils down to the G and the N. And so what you have to decide is, with this N plan, are you comfortable being responsible for excess charges and some copays to go to the doctor? The G plan is going to cover excess, of course. So as we compare the difference between the G and the N plan, you have to decide, is it worth an extra $30 a month in savings to go ahead and take on the responsibility of excess charges and copays? Because on the average right now, if we go with a G plan, we're going to save about $30 a month. So at the end of the year, what did we save? $360. But the liability you took on was excess, right? Excess charges and a couple of copays to the doctor. That's going to be the difference. And again, you have to decide that within your budget. Okay, so that's really what it boils down to. Some people don't want the risk of excess in case that were to happen. They're more interested in eliminating the risk, and so they don't want any surprises. They want to be able to know they can go to any doctor, whether the doctor takes assignment or not, and it'll still be covered. Okay, but you're going to have to decide that. But I do want to make this real clear. So we can see with all these plans, there are a couple of features that are going to be identical. Remember, everything on the A side of Medicare was the same between the F and the G and the N. There was no difference in coverage. So the only difference between the G and the N is going to be on the B side of Medicare. A couple other things that are going to be the same. No matter who you go with and what plan you go with, remember this. When it comes to Medicare supplemental plans, there are no pre-authorizations whatsoever. There's no networks that you have to worry about whatsoever. And every policy that you get is going to be a lifetime policy, meaning it's not cancelable by the insurance company. and it's totally going to be portable whenever you move away, if you happen to leave one area and move to another state. Okay, so no pre-authorizations on the G or the N plan. That just simply means that when your doctor says you need a knee replacement, hip replacement, or an MRI or a CAT scan, you don't have to get the insurance company's approval. If Medicare pays and your doctor says you need it, then that's the end of the story, and that supplemental plan is going to pay based upon the letter that you bought, no pre-authorizations. I say that for this reason. When people get Advantage plans, they absolutely are going to have pre-authorizations. The insurance company has a final say-so for about 70% of all the services they're going to need. All right, not so when you get a supplemental plan, a G or an N plan. Secondly, you're going to notice here we have no networks, which means you can go to any provider that takes Medicare. You don't even have to ask them, do you take my G plan or my N plan? You don't have to. Just say, do you take Medicare? And if they do, they have to take your supplemental plan of choice. And then lastly, all the Medicare supplemental plans are written for life. So once they've approved that policy, they have to take all your pre-existing conditions. They have to cover you. As long as you pay your premium, you have that policy for the rest of your life. They can never cancel it because you relocate. They can't cancel it because you have a lot of claims. They can't cancel it because of your age. It's a non-cancelable policy other than for lack of payment, okay? And so again, that's going to be the same feature whether you go with the G or the N plan. Okay, now I would suggest highly that you look this over and really come to a place where you're going to be comfortable with whatever decision you make, knowing that when you make that decision, it could be lifetime. Because in most states today, after you have been on a supplemental plan 6 months, if you ever want to switch letters, switch companies, you're going to normally have to go through medical underwriting to be able to switch that plan. So I say that because this could be a lifetime decision, and we want you to make the right one.